Welcome to the Candle Business Coach podcast. I'm your host, Kirsty Allen, and I am the Candle Business Coach. I'm also a mum of three and a kindness advocator. This podcast is all about making and selling candles, business development, and mindset, delivered to you with advice, inspiration, and motivation in a new episode every Friday. Are you a candle maker looking for support, strategy, and a like-minded community? Then you need to check out the Candle Makers Collective. The Candle Makers Collective is my exclusive membership where you get weekly live group coaching, expert guidance, and a supportive network of fellow candle makers so you never feel stuck or alone in your business. There's also an ever-growing library of helpful resources, including ebooks, social media guides, templates, and more. So if you're looking to take your business to the next level and learn more about the membership for candle makers, click the link in the show notes for the Candle Makers Collective. Welcome to the podcast, Eric from Fontana Candle Company, and welcome back to the podcast, all of our listeners. Now, for those that don't know your story, Eric, do you want to share a little bit about how your business began and how you began candle making?
Sure, yeah. So my wife and I received a candle for Christmas, a large name brand candle, back in 2017. And we lit it up, had it going for about 2 hours, and we both had splitting headaches from it. And so we didn't understand what was all in it and everything else. Turns out that we're both very fragrance sensitive. And so doing a little bit of research of understanding some of the things that can be in fragrance that people can be allergic to, we wanted to figure out a way that we could both enjoy having a candle still, but not be exposed to something we may not know that's in the candle. So, yeah.
Amazing. And so this began in 2017. We're now 2025, and the journey between you going in this experience of having a big brand candle to creating your own has certainly been a journey. What would you say the process was like as you found your feet with candle making and then realized, oh, we can actually make a business out of this?
Yeah, so we started. I loved tinkering, and so I started doing some research on candles, and of course, the soy came up, pre-mixed and pre-made fragrances came up, and so I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I got some coconut oil and I got some beeswax and started blending them and making my own wax blend. I went through about 150 different blends between beeswax and coconut oil before figuring out our blend that we launched with. So it was a ton of trial and error. I didn't know anything about making candles. I didn't understand any of the science that went into making candles. So it was really just trial and error. I'm an accountant by nature, so I'm not a chemist in any way, shape, or form. So I had no idea what I was doing. So I just started making candle blends and doing a little bit of research and writing things down, and waited till we found the blend that worked for us. So it was complicated in that most candle makers know that you can buy an off the shelf wax, and it'll tell you what the melt point is, uh, what heat or temperature to add your oils, and what temperature to pour at. We didn't have any of that because we had our own blend. And so it was a lot of trial and error in the beginning. We made our first batch after and gave them to family and friends, and they really liked them. And they said, oh, we would buy these. So we decided to go to a maker's market. In 2018 was our first show, and we sold $800 worth. And we were like, wow, that's pretty amazing for a Saturday, and making candles on Thursday nights for our date night. And we just like, okay, well, let's keep trying. And we did a couple more shows. Katie really set up our website and does all of our marketing, and she's quite good at it. And so finding our niche of having, kind of a one-off blend of custom wax that we made. We had a wooden wick, and then having the story of being fragrance sensitive and trying to add an alternate to the people who are also fragrance sensitive. We just kind of really found our niche and kept on doing the makers markets and really focused on D2C through the website.
Amazing. Now, when you first started blending fragrances into the wax. You didn't start with essential oils, did you?
Nope, that's right. Yep, we went through and we did the phthalate free and tried to find the best fragrances that we could. Um, and those helped. But as we were pouring them in our house, because we started in our kitchen, it was still an enclosed space, and being exposed to that concentration of the oil still kind of gave us headaches, didn't make us feel great. And so that was kind of our thing of, okay, well, while we're doing this in our house and we're still getting these kind of headaches and not feeling great, let's try essential oils. And that was kind of going through and using those and not having the headaches anymore. Like, okay, well, let's just completely redo everything. We scrapped all of our fragrance blends and just went right into playing with essential oils. Had to completely start over because adding essential oils at the fragrance load that I was for fragrances, the whole candle started on fire. So, importance of testing everything you make. And so we really had to restart over formulating with essential oils, and they are very complicated to work with.
Yes, I actually attended an aromatherapy workshop over the weekend, specifically with essential oils and how to use them and blend them. And it was just like scratching the tip of tip of the iceberg into how complex they are. So your knowledge must be so vast based on all your research that you've done on essential oils. And as you would agree, there's essential oils that can't be used in candles, but there are that can. So do you feel like in some ways that your scent offering is a bit limited, or do you see it as a more just see it in a different way?
No, you're exactly right. And that's one of the things that we try and educate our customers on the most is because everyone asks, we want our oatmeal cream pie candle in the fall, or we want our spring apple, whatever their scent is. And we're just limited. I mean, we can't make a strawberry scented candle because strawberries don't have essential oils. And so we are very limited on the offering that we can do. We can't hit some of those sweet notes. We can't hit some of those more luxurious notes. Rose oil, for example, is like $3,500 a pound, and we just price the candle way out of the market. So we are very limited with essential oils. One of the other pieces that we educate on is that because we only use essential oils, we don't add dispersants or stabilizers or anything like that to our candles, and so our candles don't perform like fragrance in that they won't fill an entire room. They're not nearly as strong. And so that's one of those things that as people switch over to essential oils, we try to educate them on this isn't going to perform like a traditional fragrance candle. A lot of people like that in that they are looking for a lighter, softer scent. But then I also equate it to if people are eating candy bars all the time and then they take a bite of an apple, that apple just isn't going to be as sweet tasting as if your tongue and palate wasn't so accustomed to refined sugar. And so it's very similar in fragrance in that if you're used to being um, having a traditional candle or fragrance candle, and that it will fill the room and it'll give you a diverse scent profile, it's going to take a little bit of time for your palate to cleanse itself and get realigned with a natural fragrance or essential oil fragrance.
Yes, absolutely. And I love your analogy of comparing the candy bars to the apples because it's so true. We live a certain way, we buy certain products, and then when we change that, we've got to get used to that change, and that goes for all areas of life. So it's the perfect analogy.
Yep,
Would you
exactly.
say, yeah, would you say that having your candles as including like non-toxic ingredients has been a plus or a hindrance when it comes to that education piece?
So, one of the big things that we promote is transparency in our ingredients. So, one of the things that we put on our candles is the ingredient list. We'll tell you exactly everything that goes in to the candle. And one of the things that we struggle with in fragrance is that in an ingredient list, they'll just put fragrance. Fragrance can be compromised or include up to 3,000 different ingredients. and there isn't any transparency into those. And so if you are allergic to something in that, you don't necessarily know what it is, and you don't know what you're bringing into your home. And so that's the way that we're really kind of niching ourselves in the candle industry, is complete ingredient transparency. So if you know you are allergic to lavender, or you don't want to have lavender in your house because you're worried about it being an estrogen mimicker or whatever, you now have that insight into our candle of this is what's in it. And if you don't want that lavender in your home, then you know, and you don't have to buy it. And so we've really found where having that ingredient transparency has really been a help to us. Trying to educate people on you might be allergic to something in the fragrance has really allowed us to kind of niche down, focus marketing efforts, and really focus our message. So I think it's been a very big help.
It's so amazing to think that if you hadn't gone through your journey with Katie at the start, where you would be now, like if you would, if you would still be buying, or if you'd be buying candles, or if you would have, yeah, gone on this incredible journey. One thing that I saw that myself and many of the candle makers are super impressed with is that you have the first candle that was certified, independently certified by Made Safe. What was that process like to become certified?
It was very daunting. Certifications, as anyone knows, are very expensive. Um, and they are a ton of work. So when we started with Made Safe, we said we wanted to be we wanted to be their first Made Safe candle, and we went through the documentation of every single ingredient. So SDS sheets, complete composition, manufacturing and processing agents used during manufacturing. And it was everything. It was the wax, each wax, every single essential oil, the wick that's used, the wick clip down to the glue dot that we use to affix the wick clip to the glass jar. So it
Wow.
was probably about 8 or 9 months of document sharing, composition sharing. They do random testing, and they'll buy candles and do testing on it to make sure that we aren't adding something that we're not saying is in there. Um, it's limiting in the fact that um, I can only buy from a set number of suppliers. So I have two main essential oil suppliers, and I can't go to Amazon, or I can't go to a random website and buy just random oil. I have to buy it from these approved vendors. So it's really cool saying that, we have that third party certification. It's a big selling point to people who question or may have questions about essential oils, and really allows us to kind of prove that we are putting in what we say we're putting in, but there are some hindrances with it as well.
I guess there would need to be, to show that there's such a high standard that's required to have that certification, and to know that you've with the first candle company, the first candles to have that certification. That must make you so proud.
Yeah, it was. It was very cool to be on that journey. We've grown well with Made Safe. We have a good relationship with them because we were there first and worked very closely on launching a new certified product for them. And so, yeah, it was a really cool journey.
When it comes to the business, I think it's fair to say that you have grown and scaled exceptionally fast. I know COVID had a positive impact in that regard, with people being at home and wanting to take care of their health and looking for products that were aligned with that. I have so many questions when it comes to growing and scaling, but what do you think has been the secret sauce for you and Katie and the business and the team to growing and scaling as fast as you have?
So I would say, so I'm a really huge fan of Simon Sinek. If you ever have 10 minutes, go on YouTube and search the golden circle with Simon Sinek. And he'll really tell you that people don't buy your products, they buy your why. And so our why is helping people eliminate fragrance from their life, adding ingredient transparency to their life. And that really helped us focus on the niche that we're focused on and selling. So the big thing with candles, like everybody knows, is it's super easy to start a candle business. There's very low entry to barrier to entry, and they pop up all the time. When we were in our makers markets, we were one of 4 or 5 candle makers there, and so having a differentiation, having a niche, and focusing on that is really key to us. And like you said, we chose the natural, non-toxic space, focused on that. And like I said, as COVID took off and people were becoming more aware of what's in their homes, that really allowed us to differentiate ourselves from whether it be a funny label or classic or one-off vessels, whatever it is. Having that non-toxic space that we focused on really helped us to grow.
Would you say that social media played a part in that as well in your growth?
It was, it was, yeah, it was probably like 90% of why we grew. It
That and
was,
word of mouth.
and word of mouth, yes, of course. We were very fortunate in that we started early in a couple of years ago with the social media thing, where influencers um, were just a little bit more starting out in this space as well. And so the first influencer we got, I think she had 300,000 followers at the time, and we had like 15,000 in sales from her one post.
Wow.
Today she has over 1 million followers. And so it seems like it was before the influencer marketing aspect went a little bit more commercial, and it
Mhm.
was still early in that they were sharing products that they truly loved and liked and used. And so that was really, really big for us. Having that influencer marketing was huge.
Would you say that you use social media more in a playful way now, or is it still strategic?
It's still it's very strategic. In talking with Katie, we do have um, a contractor that does social media for us. So he'll come in once a week and do content shoots for us, and then he'll create posts for every day from that one shoot each week. So we try to post twice a day. We post one funny, engaging, theatrical type movie or post behind the scenes, and then we post one educational product type post every day. So we do two, and trying to do that education piece, but then also the fun, playful, behind the scenes, get to know us type of piece as well.
I love that. I've been watching you on socials as many thousands of people do, tens of thousands of people do, and it's very encouraging seeing both you and Katie in front of the camera and being able to get to know you and get to connect with you as business owners, but as candle makers at the same time. What would you say to the candle makers listening that are a little bit afraid to show their face on socials?
I totally understand where you're coming from. That's the first thing I would say. It took a while for it to kind of get comfortable with it. There's still times where I struggle with what I want to say. We don't really rehearse, and so a lot of it's off the cuff, and you can kind of tell when I'm not thinking about social media and thinking about what I'm doing, and I stumble around and all that other stuff. But I think that adds an aspect of realness to it because it is real. Um, I would say you just have to do it, because I appreciate you hearing you say, it's nice seeing us on it. It gives some personality to the business and realness to the business. And so um, you have to do it. People are buying you. They can get a candle anywhere. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can go to TJ Maxx and get one for $5. Candle makers, we can't make it for that. Like, that's our costs. And so you have to be able to help people justify, why are they spending 20, 30, 40, $50 on your candle? Well, they're buying you, and they need to know who you are
Mm-hmm.
in order to justify spending that kind of money on a candle.
Absolutely. It's the advantage we have as small business owners that we can share our journey and share our mission and why we're doing what we're doing, as opposed to, yes, as you say, going to like a big name store and just buying a candle off the shelf, particularly because the price points are so different. When
Right.
it
Yeah.
comes When it comes to scaling, how have you stayed authentic to your original mission?
So scaling has been one of the hardest things. So I remember our first batch, I think we made 5 candles. I still have the Presto pot that we started with. Yesterday we made about 2,200 candles. And
Wow.
so it's totally different. The way we made them in our kitchen is not even close to how we make them today. We have a $27,000 pouring machine. So
Wow.
where it takes unscented wax, it takes our essential oil blend, and it mixes them together as it's pouring into the candle. So before, where we were mixing the scents in the pots for a minute, making sure it was completely mixed and then pouring it, it's not even close to what we're doing today. But how we're really staying authentic to that is things are still handmade. Every wick is placed by hand. That Cougar machine it's still by hand. We hit and reheat and burp each bubble by hand. We label by hand. And so that part is still there. But our biggest thing is that ingredient transparency. We will always put every ingredient on our candle. We don't allow fragrance into our facility at all. It's completely 100% essential oils only allowed. Like even in our soap that we bring in for the bathrooms, we don't have fragrance in them. And so that's really what we are trying to do as we scale. It's oh,
It's real life.
real life. Yeah, it is. So just making sure that our ingredients really are what we say they are, buying from reputable and our certified suppliers, and that ingredient transparency, really just staying true to our why.
Mm, so, so true. Having that why and having that at the forefront of everything you do, every decision that you make has been a guiding light for you and Katie in the business. And without that directing you where you want to go, you're not going to reach those goals and milestones along the way because it's what's driving you forward.
You're absolutely right. It really keeps you focused on what you're trying to do. And because we do get people asking for different scents all the time, and we've had strawberry requested numerous times, and it's just we can't. And having that why of what are we actually doing allows us to have a decision tree more or less of is this something we should do or isn't it? And if it
Mm,
fits our why, okay, we can try it. But if it doesn't, then it's a non-starter.
yes, definitely. Would you say that, or not would you say, what would you say has been the biggest milestone or achievement for the business?
I would say probably our turning point came in 2020. In 2019, I think we did about $30,000 in sales. And in 2020, we got a PO from a big influencer who also had her own store for, I think her PO order was $28,000.
Wow.
And so in one PO, we had an order for what we did in the entirety of last year. And that was huge for us. And we were in our basement and we're like, it was 7 or 8 thousand candles. And we're like,
Wow.
how the heck are we going to make this? And so we had a huge whiteboard that had the order on it, what we were selling, how many we had in stock, how many we've made, how many were set aside for this order. And it was just every day we came in and we poured 100 candles a day for weeks. And it was a major turning point for us. It was the first time we shipped a pallet. So we were kind of freaking out of, we have a month of work sitting on this pallet. If it melts or if it gets into an accident or how are we going to handle this? And so
Yeah.
that was a really big turning point for us. And it was one of those things that would have been easier to say no just because it was all consuming. But we said yes because it's like, we have to do this. Like, that's so much money that we can't say no to it. It just we had to make it happen.
And you did.
And we did. Yeah, we did.
I saw on your website a picture of Katie next to all these boxes in your driveway. And it
Yeah.
just really sums up you bootstrap it for the first however long, and then you have a factory, and now you're considering purchasing another factory, bigger in size, double in size, I think.
Yep. Double in size. Yeah. It's 13,000 square feet.
Wow. That's very
Yeah.
different from the basement or even the kitchen bench on the date nights on a Thursday when it all began.
It's very different. Yeah. It's when we started getting pallets of coconut oil delivered to our house, it was kind of that turning point of, I don't think we can do this anymore in our house. We can't have tractor trailers showing up in our HOA neighborhood. It just wouldn't work.
Pure Candle Supplies is a Melbourne based wholesale supply of high quality candle and fragrance products. Australian owned and operated, they offer competitive prices, expert support, and product training to help candle makers succeed. Their showroom in Croydon, Victoria is open Monday to Saturday, stocked with various waxes, fragrance oils, wicks, molds, and more. Whether you're just starting out or an experienced maker, Pure Candle Supplies has everything you need to create beautiful, high quality candles and home fragrance products. Check out their extensive range at purecandlesupplies.com.au and use discount code CBC10OFF for 10% off your order. More details in the show notes. Was the dream always to build an empire, or was it just putting one foot in front of the other?
So Katie and I, when we started dating, she owned a dog grooming daycare center.
Oh,
And
wow.
my dad was always has owned his own business. He was a flooring installer. He's created and invented an ice fishing machine. So my dad's very entrepreneurial. I was very corporate at the time when we started dating, but we really bonded over that entrepreneurial spirit and wanted to build something ourselves. We had no vision that it would be in candles, but yeah, I would say we wanted to build something big. I don't know if it was an empire or not, but we wanted to build something for us and something that, we could employ people. We could have a space. We could have a brand, whatever it was. But yeah, we always had a dream of building something.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, when it comes to growing in other directions than just candles, you've got home fragrance products, but you also have, back to candles, subscriptions as well. Has that helped to bring in repeat customers and obviously expanding your product range?
Yeah, so I guess a couple parts of that. We did when we started, and we like again back to our why. It's eliminating fragrance. We wanted to expand our products, and we offered lip balms, room sprays, bar soap, foaming hand soap, bath salts, and it was all scented with essential oils. And we're like, okay, this still fits our why. It's not candles, but it fits what we're doing, so let's try it. And so we offered all of those things. When I looked at our P&L, I was an accountant, so I geek out on numbers all the time. When I looked at our P&L at the end of the year, 96% of our revenue came from candles. The rest of it came from everything else. And everything else, we had dedicated spots for it because it was skincare. And so we had to have a separate room for separate space for it. Room sprays were liquid, and so we had a separate space for that. Anything that we were making had its own dedicated space, took a lot of space, took a specialized person to make it, and really distracted us from candles. And it was only bringing in, you know, a minuscule amount of revenue. And so when we looked at that and looked at our space of saying, okay, we're running out of space, how do we get more? We discontinued everything but candles. So it was a very hard decision to make because we did spend a ton of time formulating all of those recipes, but the return wasn't there. And so it was a very hard decision to discontinue them, focus on candles because that's what people knew us for, and really narrow back down our SKU offering. We
Mm.
figured, okay, candles is where we're making our money, so let's put more emphasis and research and development time on new vessels, new scents, formulating new scents. And as everyone knows, anytime you change a vessel, change a scent, change a wax, you retest everything. And so we said, okay, let's eliminate the variation in our products as far as different offerings and focus back on candles, helping us launch new candles. And so that was really a big focus on expanding and contracting our offerings.
Would you say that, how do I phrase this? Would you say that that journey of branching out and then pulling back was a learning experience for you? Do you regret doing it? Like, what does your mindset say about that process?
It was a huge learning experience. We were we were about 3 months into a body butter product line expansion that we were working on. So working on all different kinds of shea and everything we were putting into this body butter. And we canceled all of these ancillary products before that actually launched. So we did learn a ton. I learned a lot about formulation. I learned a lot about oil mixing. And so I don't regret it at all. Um, it was expensive. Would I do it again? Probably not. I'd probably focus on candles still. I remember conversations of Katie and I going back and forth of do we expand into this and not. And um, so it was a really big learning. I don't regret it at all. But knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't have spent all the time, money, and resources on expanding.
That's fair enough. And I think you don't know unless you try, right? So you felt called to make these other products for home and body, and then at the end of the day, if it's not bringing in the revenue, and it's, I mean, it was still aligned with your why because you wouldn't have gone down that path if it wasn't. But
Right.
the customers will tell you what they want. The customer, your ideal market, your repeat sales, that'll tell you where the money is. And having the opportunity to be able to expand, even though obviously it's a costly adventure, but being able to play and to experiment, I think is only a good thing.
You're 100% right. And we've had the conversations of, okay, we launched this niche of candle in 2019-20 was kind of when we really focused on what we were doing. And there wasn't a ton of essential oil candles around when we launched. There also wasn't a ton of all the other products like we launched, like natural lip balms and room sprays and all that other and natural cleaning stuff. And so where we've grown in the natural candle space, other companies who focused on soaps or on lip balms kind of grew in their space as well. So we've always thought of, okay, if we would have launched all these products back in 2019, 2020, would we be selling candles or would we be selling soap? We just
Mm.
don't know. That we launched those new products in a more mature natural product space when we did. It's all right, is there just so much competition now in those spaces in 5 years versus when we launched candles? And would it have been different if we did launch it there? So that's one thing. Like if we were starting a candle company today, redoing the research of what is a niche we'd want to get into and understanding what that maturity of the niche is in that candle space already or in
Mm.
the space of what you're making,
Yes.
because timing is super important. Like understanding your why, having your niche, staying true to that is important, but then also understanding the market dynamics of where is that niche? What are the trends happening? Are you an early adopter to it, or are you trying to get in a saturated market already? And so that's one conversation we really talk back and forth on, and what learning we did by going into those spaces. And one reason I don't regret it at all.
Mm. One of the things that many times I have this conversation with newer candle makers is that they jump into their business or they jump into their journey with such excitement and such passion, but not so much strategy. It's more the emotional side and it's more of the feelings rather than doing the thorough research and testing ideas strategically. Would you say that, given your background, that was an advantage for you in building the business?
Yeah, I definitely think it is. And one of the things that I've learned is if you enjoy candle making, if you really enjoy making the candles, don't grow your business. Like, I don't make candles anymore.
Mm,
And so it will turn into a business. It doesn't matter what you're making. There's just so many different aspects of running a business compared to making candles as a hobby or a side hustle or whatever you want to call it. Because again, the way we make candles today and run this business isn't anywhere where it was when we started. And so having a background of manufacturing, I was in the cocoa industry, I was in the ceiling tile industry for very large corporations, working in cross-functional teams and all that other stuff. I learned a ton about how do you manufacture, how do you buy. Being an accountant, I understood, P&L, cash management, balance sheet management, um, really focusing on that side. Katie has been instrumental in the marketing side. Fontana wouldn't exist if her and I weren't both in this. She grew it when we really started. I said, "You grow it, I'll run it," because she's got that marketing mind and can just sell stuff, and then I can do the finances and I can run and scale the manufacturing. And so our backgrounds are super complementary of each other, and um, always wanted to make it a business versus making candles as a hobby, because
mm.
there's just so much more there's so much more that goes into it today than just making candles.
Yes, absolutely. And given how well you've scaled and how big you've grown and continue to grow, I imagine that it is hard, or maybe not, to switch off at the end of the day and switch into different conversations. Or do you find yourself always talking about candles with Katie?
Yeah, I would say 90% of our conversation. We work about 100 hours a week each. So I was up at 3 this morning and started working.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it's all encompassing. We don't have children, fortunately or unfortunately, but it allows us to just run this business, and that's what we do. And
And it's your passion.
healthy or not, it is. We love business. We love what we're doing. Um, but it does take a lot of time. It takes a lot of time.
Does it take so much time that you're not able to upload any more episodes on the Candle Couple podcast?
Yeah,
Asking for a friend?
that was so fun. Like that, I do love these podcasts because it was so much fun. But like it is a ton of time,
Yeah.
from scheduling, coming up with ideas, getting getting the episode filmed, and then editing. Editing it takes hours upon hours of work.
Yes.
And yeah, it was very much a, okay, can we monetize this and make it another revenue stream? Maybe, but it's not there yet. And so
Mm.
to dedicate that amount of time to a pet project when we actually have this business that we got to run, it's like, okay, it's going to drop to the wayside because we have 15 employees. And so making sure that the business runs so that they still have jobs was far more important than our pet project.
Yeah, that's fair. And how incredible that you're able to support your employees, your teammates, and they have work that they can then earn money from to support their family. The ripple effect from that very first candle, that not non-toxic candle that you received, has had a huge ripple effect, and it only continues to get bigger and bigger. What are your goals and plans for Fontana? Like, where do you see this going in the future?
So it's funny. Like, you're right. Having employees and being able to support them was awesome. I think one of the coolest feelings I've had in owning a business and having employees was last year. Four of the employees all went on a cruise together, and
Oh,
so cool to think that something we started allowed our employees to take a vacation like that and like just have a small part, like they work their butts off, but that it was like our salary that helped them do this was so cool. It was so awesome.
Worth
And
all the stress and the late
yeah,
nights to know that
yeah,
you've got that impact.
it was super cool. Um, we had canceled our cruise because of finances about 6 months before. So that part kind of hurt. There was some envy there,
Fair.
but it was super cool. It was really awesome. Um, when we started, like every entrepreneur is like, oh, I want to make this $1 million business and sell it and get rich and all this stuff. And that was definitely how we started. Like any entrepreneur is lying if they tell you otherwise. But as we've grown and seen the business grow with teammates, the stories that we've had on people's lives who do use our candle. We have one customer who has an autistic son, and a part of his morning is lighting our candle because he's very fragrance sensitive and he can light our candle. And he lights it every morning. And if he doesn't have his candle to light in the morning, his day is ruined. So hearing stories like that of how we are impacting customers has really changed my perspective on owning the business. We want it to grow. We continue to expand, shifting from my desires of being rich off of this to I want a business that's impactful to people, that I can hire people, that it will give them a meaningful income and allow them to have the lives that they're wanting has kind of shifted to that in that I want to build an impactful business now. Whether it
Mm-hmm.
be the teammates we have and enriching their lives, enriching our customers' lives by being able to have a candle again and that ambiance that a candle brings. Um, that's really kind of what I want to build now.
You want that to be your legacy.
Yes, yeah, you're right. We don't have kids, so Fontana will be our legacy.
It's just incredible to think where the business is going to take you and how much bigger it's going to grow. And I know that, if and when, or not if, but when you move into a new space, yes, the bills will go up with like all the utilities and expenses and things, but the impact will be magnified in ways that we just can't even predict, which is so exciting.
And that's the part I try to focus on because so we have a 5,000 square foot space now. My monthly utility bills are between $2,000 and $3,000.
Wow.
So that's just for gas and electric. And doubling it, I'm assuming my utility bills will probably also double.
And
Heating
then
and
some.
then some. Yeah, heating a 13,000 square foot space is way different than a 5,000 square foot space. So thinking, I'm going to have a $4,000 to $5,000 utility bill every month is is exponentially more stressful. But then, like you said, trying to focus on, all right, what are we doing here? How many more people are we going to be able to enlighten or enrich or give them some ambiance at the end of the day? That's the part that I'm trying to focus on.
Yes. And I think that impact of sharing your light in the world and being able to have this positive influence in a space that is so connected with like your why, your mission, and what you're here on earth to do is so inspiring for so many candle makers that happen to stumble across you, whether it's on socials or on YouTube, or if they purchase your products or are gifted your candles. It's yeah, it's just a huge thank you from all the way over here in Australia that you're what you're doing is just so beautiful, and it's just such a privilege to be able to chat with you. But before we say goodbye, I want to ask you three specific questions, all relating to candles, that I ask all my podcast guests. So the
Sure.
first one is, and this might be a little controversial because it's about fragrance, but what is your favorite candle fragrance?
Mine is our citrus peel and pine candle.
Oh,
So it has fir, a little bit of cassia in it, and then orange oil. So
oh, beautiful.
it's a quite complex blend that is very seasonal. So it's very fall winter. Um, but has that masculine with the fir, and then some of the softening of the citrus, and then spiciness from the cassia. So one of my favorites by far.
I love that. That sounds very decadent.
Yes.
Question number two is what do you love about candles?
I love the complexity of candles. So anyone who doesn't know anything other than just you light this wick and it starts on fire and it stays lit doesn't understand the complexity of candles, the science that goes into candles, the nuance that goes into candles, whether it be formulating a scent with a top, middle, and base notes. So there's some complexity to it, understanding why like beeswax is hard to work with and that it shrinks as it cools, trying to time the pouring temperature, when do you add the oil, making sure that it doesn't flash off, how do you make sure that it doesn't sinkhole and has a quality to it, that it's burning not too hot but also doesn't tunnel. There's so much complexity in candles that you would just you don't understand unless you've made candles and really studied candles.
Yes, it is so much more complicated than just a jar, a wick, and some wax and chucking some oil, fragrance oil. Yeah, there's a
Man,
lot more to
oh, I wish it was that easy. It's not even close.
it. And then the last question is, what is one piece of advice you would like to give to other candle makers?
um, Start, do it, get in front of social media, and find your niche. Candles, especially candles, and probably a little biased just because we spend so much time in the candle space, but with such low barriers to entry, you can literally make one on your stovetop if you want a candle and know and put exactly what you want in it. So the competition is huge. I think I did an Etsy search of candles and like 2.8 million results came back. So there's a lot of candle makers out there. So find your differentiation, whether that be whether you're good at writing kitschy labels or you're really good at doing one-off vessels, reclaimed vessels. Make sure you have a story behind your company because that's what's going to differentiate you. We sold 175,000 candles last year,
Wow.
and I don't know that we would have sold that if we were just a dime a dozen candle with no story.
Mhm.
People are buying stories and they want to understand what makes your candle different.
100%. I couldn't have said it better. So it's so good that you're in the podcast and I'm not doing this by myself.
Yeah, yeah, and like thank you for this because a lot of people who traditionally buy candles, they buy them from the dollar store and everything else, and then they see a candle from a maker who pours their heart and soul into it and they're paying $20 for it. They can't justify it. And
Mhm.
so having people like you and makers out there who are understanding what goes into a candle, spreading the word about don't buy dollar store candles, this is instrumental in getting that word out and changing the shift in people's mindsets of, okay, I probably shouldn't buy this dollar candle at the store. So
Yes,
knowing
for a
who you're
variety of reasons.
exactly right. Exactly right. There's plenty of us makers out there who are trying to make a living off of this. And so
Mhm.
spending a little bit more money from somebody who you know who you're buying it from and um, spreading that word. It's just like going to the butcher and knowing where you're getting your meat from. It's much more compelling knowing this farm that that cow came from
Mhm.
versus some slaughterhouse somewhere. It's who is your candle maker? What are they putting into it? What kind of story are you buying? Who are you supporting?
100%. Eric,
So,
thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being in the on the podcast tonight. Well, my night, your morning with the time difference. I really appreciate your time and your knowledge and your wisdom. Being able to connect with you and share your journey, your and Katie's journey, and being able to inspire candle makers to continue on their path if this is the path that they want to be on and they're following their why. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and I'm extremely grateful for our conversation.
likewise, thank you so much, Chrissy. It's truly been a pleasure.
Thank you, my friend, for listening to this episode. Check out the show notes for all the links mentioned throughout the conversation, and please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you're feeling inspired, I would love it if you would write a review for the podcast and give a 5-star rating. Thank you so much and have a beautiful day.